what they're coming to or what this is. And we are live on the decision table. So welcome. We are literally, Monica, just having a conversation on here, one human to another. And I'm excited to get to know you. I have never had a conversation with you. I know nothing. And that is exciting.
Yeah, me too. No, it's great concept. I love it.
Well, here's the thing that I love about it is, you know, so much in our world is decided on or thought about because we put people in a box. We go, okay, so Monica does this. This must mean that she is like this. And I think we miss a huge part of humanity, which is fascinating, which is exciting, and maybe we could even learn from. So that's what I'm just going to start asking a few questions, and we're just going to roll with the conversation. So welcome to the table.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
You know what's really bizarre is actually doing a table live. I haven't done one for a while. I did a whole lot every single day for months. And in the last few months, we've been on the road, and I'm not in my normal office. In fact, I'm in a really random room right now. And but one of the things I love is that lots of decisions get made at a table. And I think, you know, we can take that table wherever we are, be involved in a table wherever we are, and have a conversation. What are you seeing right now in your world when having conversations? What are some of the things you're hearing right now?
I tend to sort of surround myself with very positive people, which is great.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing a lot about sort of how the pandemic and lockdown, etc., has shifted people's perspectives for the positive, and has made them shift what they're doing in their lives. And some of them are making big changes, or some of them are just sharpening the things that they're doing, and create, like a lot of people I mix with are consciously creating a life that they want. So I don't really have a lot of exposure to people who sort of talking about how they're suffering a lot right now. Even the people that I mix with whose businesses have been forced to close, in the conversations I'm having with them, they are sharing the silver lining instead of, you know, the negative side of that. So that's really great. And I know
that's awesome. I love it.
Well, I know it's a limited view, but I really think you surround yourself by people that you sort of based on your thoughts and your attraction points. So I think, and I have really consciously this year made a decision to sort of do a lot of work on myself and personal development, and learn about my brain and emotions and how all of that works. So this year, more than any other year previously, I have focused on feeling good and seeing good and doing good, and all I seem to be getting back is good stuff, which is good.
Which by the way, I love, and I think is fantastic, because you're so right. When we focus in on things, we tend to draw those to us. We tend to, you know, it's that whole thing. If you aim at nothing, you'll probably get nothing. And you know, we often think, oh, we want this as our result, but we haven't even kind of plugged our pathway to it. So, you know, what you're saying makes so much sense. Yet in a world where there is a lot of challenges, there is difficulty, and many are going through hard times. How do you stay focused on that with being intentional? How do you do that personally?
Well, I'm confronted by that every day, because I have 2 teenagers and a 10-year-old. And my teenage girls, they are definitely not seeing this as an amazing time of their life at all. They are, you know, struggling with lockdown. So I've often asked myself that question, like, how do I bring my positive perspective while they're struggling? And what I've come up with is 2 things. So one it's sort of their journey to live, like they are teenagers. And I was a teenager once, and it certainly wasn't the best time of my life. And okay, I didn't have a pandemic to deal with, but or social media and all of those things. But by struggling a little bit in my teens, I feel like it built me into the person that I am today, which is I'm happy with. And on the other thing, I think if I come to them from my positive standpoint, I think it can only help them. It's not saying they'll buy into my attitude or my ideas or whatever right now, but they don't have to. You know, it's all I can do is share my perspective, and they can do what they want with that. So, and it hurts.
And I love
obviously.
that. By the way, I really love that piece. And I think just before you move to the next, that's really important to remember, right? Is we don't have to go down to, we don't have to move over to. We can choose to go, hey, actually, I'm choosing intentionally to be positive, to focus in on the things that are going to be beneficial, the valuable things in my world. And although others might not necessarily come on that journey with us, it is a choice. And I think what I love about that is that you've chosen to do that. And I think even though many would not choose to do that right now, many would focus in on things that probably are not going to be beneficial, are not going to make you feel good. And I think that that's interesting because, and I wonder, my thinking then goes, is that because you've had challenges in the past and you've learned skills and got resources that can help you do that well? Or is it something that you naturally have always done in your life?
I feel very lucky and fortunate that sort of positivity seems to be my default nature, but it definitely wasn't always like this because, as I said, I went through quite a bit of struggles as a teenager. So I had an eating disorder like throughout my whole high school period. I thought I'll never amount to anything. I did not like myself at all. And my
I'm relating to a few of these things you are saying.
Yeah, I know. But I think my mum had a nervous breakdown when I was young. So I think I was 8 and under. So my mum is a child of Holocaust survivors and migrated to Australia from Romania, communist Romania, when she was in her teen, like 14 or something. So obviously there was a lot of, she had a lot of challenges, which resulted in her having a bit of a nervous breakdown later in life when I was young. But a psychiatrist told her that she will always be on medication for the rest of her life. And when she heard that, she said, I will not, thank you very much. Yeah. And that's when she did her own research to see how she could heal herself, not just through medication, and wean herself off. So that's when she discovered, you know, personal development, and meditation and mindfulness and positivity. And so I feel quite lucky because I think by the time I was 10, she'd completely flipped the switch from being kind of having agoraphobia and feeling depressed and not being able to leave the house to being the most positive person you've ever met in your whole life. And so that happened, I think, just in time for me to go into my second most formative years, probably. So I think that's a big part of my positivity, where it comes from. And then obviously, yes, I've had setbacks and challenges and all sorts of things in life that I think I've learned from and grown from. All the usual things that everyone experiences from, you know, when I was younger, relationship breakups and things, to, you know, death, you know, to death of family members, to, you know, I've been running a business for 21 years, so there's plenty of challenges.
Few lessons to learn there, right?
Yeah. And what I say, and I heard this somewhere, so I don't take credit for it, but with every setback, you fill up your resilience bank. So it's like you break a bone, and then if that heals, that bone might become strong. Well, actually, I don't think that is the case. A bad example. But
no. Here's the thing, and I'm going to interrupt here because I actually think that this is not necessarily a truth what you're saying there. Because I think if you're intentional, yes, you can build resilience, you can refuel, you can learn, strategies, whatever it is, to help you do it well next time.
Yeah.
What I have learned is that not everyone chooses to do that.
No.
And one of the things that I've seen in many, many patterns through the work that I do is that, a lot of the time people know what the problem is, and they keep defaulting back to the problem. Yeah. What they're not seeing is that there is solutions, or know the pathways to solutions. And so that is where your mom learned different strategies to go into meditation. I mean, instead of looking at the problem, the challenges, the hurt, the pain, the whatever anger maybe that she felt, she chose to look at meditation and rewiring to another thing.
Yeah.
And I think that this is one of the pieces is very, very important, but often missed, is that we know the problem. In your case, you're choosing to be intentional to rewire to a better pattern that's actually going to give you better results. What have you seen in your life, in what you do today, that this is a way better default system?
Oh, so much. I have spent so many years worrying and feeling fear in running a business, worrying about money, worrying about doing a great job for clients, worrying about staff or my team, keeping great team members, how to not keep the ones that aren't great. So many worries. And I just made a decision, like what you said, I think a year or so ago, that I am so over worrying. I am so over.
I love that. So over worrying.
I'm so over wasting my energy on worrying and anxiety and waking up at 3 a.m. and stressing and fretting. And not saying I was like that all the time, but I'd say I was doing that 70% of the time.
Yeah.
And so it's so liberating to have just released that. And I don't, I probably, so let's say I used to do that 70% of the time. I still worry every now and then, but I think it's like 5% now. And it's given me so much more energy to live my life in a brilliant way instead of focusing on the fear. Because I think worry comes from fear, and I've always known that I'd rather choose to live from love than live from fear. But just with the practicalities of life, I tended to default to fear. Yeah. Whereas now I'm choosing love, not fear, and which means doing scary things like pivoting my business and just having faith that everything will work out, and everything always works out for me, and all of that stuff. But it's working, like it's really working.
So tell us, how are you pivoting? What's that looking like?
Okay. So for 21 years, I've run a PR agency where I've helped entrepreneurial business-driven businesses amplify and magnify their message in mainstream media. I love doing this. The clients I work with are very passionate. They're living, what we say is they're living a dream and sometimes a nightmare, quite often a nightmare, solving a problem and improving the life of their client, customer, or the world in some way, shape or form. So that's been amazing. But in the last 6 years or so, I've started giving talks and speaking, presenting on a range of topics, but a lot of it was linked to sort of media and helping clients or helping audiences sort of understand media and how they can use the media, the media's thirst for content to their advantage.
Makes sense.
Kind of expanded that into more talking about communication. So I've created a new arm of my business called Incredible Communication. And credible is capital C, so it's about credible communication, and the can stand for inspiration, intuition, integrity, all these amazing in words.
Intentional.
Intentional. There's just in. It's amazing how many incredible words come out of that IN.
Wow.
And so now I'm sort of developing my professional speaking career, really, talking to corporates and small businesses and community groups and anyone who wants to learn about incredible communication for outstanding outcomes. And then I'm also working with expert authors. So I'm training them on how to, one, develop a very strong and memorable personal brand, and then two, how to do their own PR, so that they can leverage their book to become that go-to media spokesperson for their industry. And I'm still running my business, but at a more sort of downscaled level. So, but all these changes.
So interesting. One of the things that I've been fascinated in the last little while is because of my work and my insights of my work, a lot of people have seen me very strategic, logical, analytical, quite data-driven, and pretty geeky and intense would be the side. What I realized I was really missing in my work was the other side of me that many who knew me in my past lives knew a lot of the fact that I was extremely creative. I love performing arts. I love design. I love photography. And what I found really interesting in the last little while is going back to the drawing board and going, how do I bring that back into what I bring to the table? Because there were pieces of it that were missing. I always found it difficult. I teach around with my insights around the new approach to leadership. And, talking about humanity as stakeholders at the table. So it's pretty intense things. And it was really easy for me to bring it offline with a small group or one-on-one. What I found really difficult was anytime I brought it online, I was having to then go back into, the only way people talk is like this, or this is what people are looking for. And it's been so interesting in the last, and I've really spent quite a lot of time on, and in fact, it's been while I've been a little quiet online in the last probably about 3 months. And the reason being is that I've really been focusing in, how do I bring some of this so that I can bring my offline brand onto an online brand without diluting it, by the way. Because, when you talk about things like new approach, that means I can't bring it exactly the same as everyone else. I can't do what we've always done with presenting leadership online. So how do you do that in a new world, Are you finding that with the forever changing landscape, the way people are needing to communicate with who they are, what they're bringing, to be different?
Definitely. I think we're all having to learn quite a lot about ourselves and things that we could have just, kept going on the way we were, but we're all being challenged. Perfect example is just having moved onto the online world, onto Zoom, for instance. The way you communicate on Zoom, both from a verbal and a non-verbal point of view, speaks volumes, and things that you did not need to think about before all of, the online thing became so crucial. When it comes to leadership, leaders are used to having people there, where they can see them and, pick up things through body language and see little bits and bobs. Now they don't see all that while we're working from home. So they have to find other ways to communicate, show empathy, and stay connected essentially with their teams.
So how are you seeing that, and what are you suggesting we do it in better ways? Like, how can we show more empathy on Zoom?
Well, I think, for instance, it's not okay. Well, one good example is if you're diving into a work meeting where you're sort of having a whip and finding out what's going on, just spending a little bit of time connecting to the actual person, not just the robot doing the work. So actually asking a question like, how are things for you? You know, just how are you feeling in general, not just what are you doing with the work. So there's
you mean example. Connect with the other human on the other side of it?
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
so
good. Yes.
Actually talk to the person about them, not just the work that they're doing or should be doing or haven't done and all of that sort of thing. And then with all the parents who are homeschooling, I mean, I'm just so glad my kids are 15, 13 and 10, so they're more independent, particularly the older ones. But if they were like 8 and under, oh my gosh, you know, how do you do your normal work and homeschool at the same time and not feel guilty with both, you know, ways? So I think, you there is the need to show empathy, and again connect and just show that you know that it's more challenging, and just give a little bit of slack, because that will go a long way to getting, one, the best from people, and two, just getting that loyalty that everyone wants from their amazing team members. And then it's even the way you talk in Zoom and your backdrops and all those things. So you know, looking into the camera, so you're actually looking into their eyes instead of sort of looking elsewhere. You know, and maybe you might consciously choose to sort of not mind if your kid comes running in, if you're a leader, to make them feel, I mean, not staging it, obviously. You could
trust me, you don't have to stage it. It happens.
Exactly. So just humanizing yourself as a leader, I think is really valuable. And then I think the most important thing, particularly with this time, is putting more fun into the work week. So whether you play a game online of some sort, or, you know, I've got a friend who's got comedians who come in and do a 10-minute warm-up before the meeting starts. I think we all need to reconnect to fun. And when you were saying that about creativity, the other thing I forgot to mention that's quite new for me. Well, I've been doing stand-up comedy for 3 years.
Yes.
And that's taken me and my just my level of enjoyment of life to a whole new level, because it's opened up that creative muscle again. It's allowed me to play. It's challenging me, so I get that really great adrenaline rush, you know, when things go well on stage. I'm meeting a whole range of people that I would have never come across before, which keeps everything fresh and your brain fresh and new connections going. So creativity, I think, is paramount. So as a leader, I think it would be awesome to find something that helps you be more creative and step out of what you do every day and what you know, and then encourage your team members to do the same, and just have that sense of play and fun and encourage that.
So how do you bring the stand-up in your work?
Well, funny thing is, since I've been doing stand-up comedy, I find that I don't really have a filter, which is not always a good thing. So
I'm used to it. I've got many in our family who are on spectrum, so that's our everyday life.
Yeah, so sometimes I find I do say things that might be inappropriate, because it's weird.
But isn't that humanizing it again?
But it
isn't that just being real?
And people laugh, you know, it is funny. And my key value is one of my core values is being real. So it totally fits.
Yeah.
And how else? I think it's just helped me work that creative brain. And then the creativity, I work in a very creative business, and that creativity from the comedy flows beautifully to everything I do, from the presenting and putting together original ideas and storytelling with my keynotes, to just helping people when I media train them, help them lighten up using humor, because they can be quite nervous, and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
I actually personally think I'm a really funny person. My husband doesn't, but I do. And, many people that know me well know that I love to have fun and to really stir up. One of the things, though, I really struggle. So my other half, he really loves comedy, and which is fine, except that most comedy that I hear him listening to is really putting down either yourself or putting down another human. And when your whole work is about building up humanity and actually giving humans a voice and loving and accepting the fact that we're all different, and that's actually our genius zone that we bring to the table. I really struggle listening to a lot of comedy these days. I love a good laugh. I love having fun. Like I said, I think I'm quite funny and bring jokes into play a lot of the time. But I do struggle that a lot of our humor is nowadays to pull people down. How can you do that in a way that is bringing it into what you do, yet still building the human race up?
I think there are different styles of comedy, and everyone has their own kind of way of doing it. And some people start off. The most typical way that comics start off is through self-depreciation and, as you say, being mean to other people. But then as you get more comfortable, and this sounds weird, but then that's like your crutch. So you start, that's your crutch. But then as you get more comfortable and confident, you start to move away from that, and then you can take it wherever you want. So a big part of my comedy is storytelling. So I think about my unique stories, things that only have happened to me, my perception of the story, and tell it in a humorous way. So one of my
Give us an example. Yeah.
Oh, I have. Okay, I'm very rusty because
that's good. We do rusty here.
Yeah,
we do rusty here.
Like, for instance, I can't tell you line for line, but one of my sets is about meeting my husband. So he's Dutch. He was traveling for 5 months in New Zealand. I was there for 1 week, and we met in a bar, and we just hit it off. It was love at first sight and things like that. So I tell that story from my perspective in a humorous way. So. For instance, I say something like the next day, so after meeting, blah, 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 I tell the story. And then the next day he asked me to get into his car. Now, I know my mum always told me never to get into a car with a stranger, but something told me he was no axe murderer. And even if he was, look, he was hot, and we all have to die somehow, right? So it's just telling a story, but adding the humorous techniques. And that technique is kind of being related. It's very relatable, and it's like, oh, we're all going to die somehow, but he's hot, so look, we've got so, and then he has long hair, so I'm comparing him to Jesus, and so it doesn't have to be all about being mean and self-depreciating. Once you're comfortable, and not everyone starts there, but a lot of people do start there.
Yeah, I love that.
Some people never leave there. Some people never do, but good comics do.
Yeah, I really love that, and I think there's such strength in being able to bring that to the table. But I also love it because I think laughter. We've always heard that sort of saying that laughter is great medicine, for the soul kind of thing, and I think that there is so much truth in the fact that, particularly when the world has been facing a fair few challenges, to have a good laugh, to have humor, is healthy for our mental health.
Oh, definitely.
Have you seen that helping you and others around you?
Oh, definitely. Okay, so there's one thing going to comedy and watching comedy, obviously, that you get a laugh, but it's really just bringing humor into everyday sort of things, like cracking a joke about, like, not taking everything so friggin' seriously, I think, is the main thing. Like, I know life is serious, but you don't have to take it so seriously. Try to see the light in situations that might feel dark or that are a bit more challenging, I think is a very good technique. And I mean, I've always thought you can either cry about it or laugh about it. Like, I mean, there's
and I
nothing
know
wrong
which
with,
I'd rather do.
yeah, like, look, sometimes it's good to have a good old cry and have that release, but quite often that cry turns into a laugh afterwards.
Yeah, trust me, I know how to cry. I can cry really well, but I actually don't like crying. It is one of those things, and as the years have got on, whether I don't like it or not, it happens when it happens. And like you say, it's like a good release, and I think it's healthy to not hold it in. And one of the things that make me cry is injustice. Like, if you tell me a story around anything to do with heartbreaking injustice, I'm like the first that will have tears pouring down her face, because you know, it's the drive for everything that I do is to be able to give platforms, to give voices to people like that maybe haven't had a voice before, but you know, that we need to be able to, everyone needs to be able to voice what they need somewhere, somehow. And you know, the worst thing I ever hear is someone not being able to have a voice. And you know, so things like that break my heart. But in the same way, I also love, you know, the moment when people celebrating and winning and exciting and success, and I feel that too. And I think, you know, laughing with a bunch of good mates is something about that. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, during this time when a lot of us humans have been isolated, we've missed out on those moments, just those moments where even in an office space that you might bump into a colleague, have a great conversation in the corner, and then you're ready to get back to your desk in the afternoon. Thing.
No, definitely. I mean, we've recently in Sydney here been allowed to have picnics, and I had one on Sunday with 4 friends.
Wow.
And oh my God, it was such an amazing feeling. Like, I've done a lot of walking one-on-one with friends and things, so I've socialized like that. But just to be able to sit, eat, drink, laugh, and chat to more than one person was amazing. And just made me realize how much we just take that simple liberty for granted. And I had no interest to get 5 people on a Zoom. I mean, I have Zoomed with some friends, but it's just not the same as sitting and relaxing and not looking at a screen. It was really, really amazing. So I think we are all going to really appreciate each other, I think, a lot more. And hopefully it won't be something that we think is amazing and then we forget about it. Hopefully we'll continue to appreciate it even after it's back normalized again.
I agree. And I wonder how, particularly in your work, how do we get, you know, is messaging changing? Is the way we communicate changing? And if so, how are we going to do that differently?
Yeah. Well, I think what's important is to become just a bit more conscious about your messaging. So I help people as well develop their personal brand so that they consciously create the perception that they want others to have of them based on their core values, their expertise and their story that they want to share, and how they want to help people with their expertise. So I think, you know, what this time has shown us is we can keep flailing through life, or we can choose to be more conscious about what we want to do, how we want to be seen, how we want to communicate, how we want to help people. So I think, I think there's been
are the bigger media outlets or the bigger platforms, do you think they're going to think this too? They're going to see it like that?
Look, media will always be media, and their top priority will be ratings. Now, the way they get good ratings is by getting engagement from their audiences. And they know they have to keep delivering certain things to get that engagement. And it's always going to be a range of things. There's going to be a whole lot of controversial things, sensational things, disaster things, but then there's, they know that people resonate with good news stories as well. And a lot of media outlets have been focused on pumping out the good stories to balance the negative stories. So I don't think media is changing in a hurry, but you see what you focus on. So I see the range because I need to, but I focus on the good stories, whereas someone who's got that negative attraction point would only see the negative stories or only interpret the stories as being a disaster or the world's crumbling. And, so it's all about how you perceive the news based on your goggles that you're wearing.
I love that. So how can we be the best us? How can we turn up, show up the best us?
I think first and foremost, get to know yourself, because you can't be your best you if you just have no clue what you're about, how your emotions drive you, how your brain works. There are things that trigger you and that you react to if you don't know why, if it just takes over and you just don't know why, you keep ending up doing the same thing, even though you're not happy with what you're doing or what you're attracting or whatever. So step one, get to know yourself, and really work out what's blocking you from being sort of the best version of yourself and clear those blocks. And there's 1,000,001 ways to do that. And then secondly, as I said, sort of be more conscious with what you do with your communication, with how you want to be in the world. And that links to your core values, and they're different for everyone. So for me, one of mine is sort of being kind. And so that's a nice word, but if I'm not doing that, then it's just words. So I've consciously gone out of my way to make kindness a priority in my behavior this year. Everything from, if I see a homeless person, talking to them, giving them food and or money and things like that, making them feel seen, to things like helping people connect them to journalists if I see that they've got something valuable and I can help them, to writing book reviews or podcast reviews. There are so many, many ways. When I see someone selling The Big Issue, which I think a lot of people will know, but basically it's a magazine that homeless people, or not, they don't have to be homeless, but vulnerable people can purchase, sell, and they make money. So I'll always buy one, but I'll always pay double. And it's a tiny thing for me. It's like, while I'm buying one, I might as well buy two. I let them keep it, obviously. And they're like so appreciative, and it just makes them feel seen, helps them make money to get out of whatever situation of challenge they're in. And there's just so many. And then you can look closer to your family. If my daughter needs a lift somewhere, I could easily say, no, get a bus. Like, why should I? Or I can say, actually, I've got a spare 10, 15 minutes. Sure. Like, why not? It's not that I say that every time, but, so just little things like that. So, but that's just me. That might not.
I love that. See, it's using, I always say it's using with what you've got in your hand right now. I think all of us have something in our hand that we can show kindness, right?
Yeah. So, I'd encourage everyone to be more kind, but your high priority might be something different, like bringing, I'm not like achieving something or some security, or I don't know what it is, but your value doesn't have to be the same as my value, because if you take on my value and it's not fully your value, then you're not coming out as being really authentic. I mean, you can consciously say, I want it to be a value, but only if you're doing it because you actually want that, not because you think it'll make you look good or blah, blah, blah.
So if everyone was looking back at you and they were talking about you at the end of your life, how would you want people to be talking about you?
Yeah, this is a great question, because I have thought about it quite a bit, because my mum passed away 7 years ago. And so I've thought a lot about how I see her. And she was, like, as I already sort of described, she went through quite a bit. But towards the end of her life, she was all about helping people, kindness, positivity, and all those things. So I have thought, how would I want people to think of me? And I think what I'd want them to think is that describe me as being generous, fun, so fun and playful, like a good loyalty, like so loyal friend, loyal person to work with, reliable, because reliable is a big thing for me, and just someone who's added something to the world,
I love that.
something positive to the world.
I love that. And I think those are beautiful things, right? And like even to this day, like you've got things in your hands that you can be making steps towards, making sure that's what everyone's going to see and remember you for. Exactly. And I love that. I think how do you communicate that to your children?
Well, I think a lot of it is through action, because you can say, I want to be kind, I want to be this, I want to be that, but words are words and actions speak far louder than words. So I think it's just in doing the thing and being the thing that you want to be remembered for. And so, and as I said, with Mum, like when I think about her, they're the things that I remember based on her actions and the feeling of being with her, of her. It's more a feeling thing. So I think it's the action leads to the feelings, and I think what you remember is the feeling. Not even the action, but more the feelings that person gave you, or that or and also some of the quotable quotes.
I'd probably say it's a combination, because depending how you receive it, right? And I think this is the interesting thing about communication in itself, is the way that you might think of something. You've seen it in a particular way, you've communicated it in a particular way, doesn't mean that I will receive it exactly the way that you had sent that message, right? So I think in what you're saying there, that although for you it's the way that you feel about something, for me sometimes and I'm an extremely visual person. That's why I love design and the arts and things like that. I love how things look. I remember that moment in my brain where I capture a picture of something, and that reminds me of that experience or that feeling. I love smells. In the back of the room right now, I've got a diffuser with beautiful oils going, and I love the smells because it reminds me of just my creative space of where I'll put on a diffuser and I will get out my pencils actually just beside me, I've got a whole lot of pencils, right? And my paper. And that's because a lot of the time I love just getting, a blank sheet of paper and drawing things. So, what's really interesting is that, and one of the things that I teach about a lot in my work is exercising the muscle of human intelligence. And the reason I speak about that is because, the more we use muscles, the more likely there's capacity to have the use of those muscles, or to access them when we need them, to support when we need extra support and things. And so I'm always trying to stimulate feeling more, smelling more, hearing more, seeing more. And I have a little bit of a ritual in the morning that I start that off in my day as a conscious thing.
Oh, great.
But I do it on purpose because it has helped so much in watching other people and being able to really understand human behavior better and patterns. And to really be able to go, okay, great. I hear what you're saying, but I actually see something very different happening in your body right now. And I can tell you, when I've said that many times in life, they've gone, how did you know that? It's because I'm not looking just, and it's one of the reasons, even when I'm doing podcasts or when I'm just doing an audio recording, I will always do it as a visual as well.
Yeah.
Because I struggle. I remember being on a podcast for an amazing woman, and I have to say it was one of the hardest podcasts I've been on. And the reason was she does them all through audio. And so I was like, I can't use any of my other senses to, communicate the best that I know how to communicate.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's where we're getting to in this world right now is we are learning that maybe there's other ways to communicate. Maybe there's other ways we can see new ways to learn, to develop, to stretch, to evolve. And I just wonder in our communication, are we going to keep reverting back to the old ways of communicating? Or are we going to listen and learn from some of the things that we've talked so much about in this conversation, and be better communicators ourselves, but also communicating the message that we have?
Yeah. Well, I think some people will carry on bringing the new learnings into the future. And inevitably some people will go back to, the old ways of doing things. But as long, there'll always be that. But as long as a few people bring it forward, then that's something, I think. And then hopefully they'll continue to influence people to continue to do the same.
And I totally agree. And I think that's where it's really important right now. Something you touched on, but I think is so important, is that those that are willing to do the new are going to be role modeling what that can look like, what the possibility of what it could be. And this is where role modeling comes into play even more importantly. On that note, if people are to know more about you, learn more about you, want to connect with you more, where do they do that best? Or how do
they can come to my website, which is www.monicarosenfeld.com.au. So, and or email me at Monica, MONICA, at Monica Rosenfeld, as you see my name in the window, .com. And find me on LinkedIn, just my name. I put a lot of content on LinkedIn, aiming to give lots of value. So would love to talk to anyone who wants to learn more about anything I've spoken about today.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to be trying to take a leaf out of your book on the LinkedIn things. I really struggle on LinkedIn to get things out there, but I'm meant to be. It's part of the plan. So I'm liking that you share a lot of content on there. Okay, so it's got to this point in the conversation where we're wrapping it up, but there's always only... I never know where these conversations are going because, when you've just met someone, you don't know what you're going to talk about or anything like that. But the one thing I do ask on the decision table, on every decision table I have, is this: what are you taking from our conversation today?
Well, I just really enjoyed speaking to you about your take as well on where we're at now in the future. So I just love speaking to other like-minded people because it gives me energy, and I think it takes an army to create change in the world. Yeah. So and also specifically what you said about using your senses, because I haven't really thought of it like that as much, incorporating the whole visual and the sense, the smell and the touch. So yeah, that's something that I will remember, as well as if I ever sort of am tempted to write something self-depreciating or mean in comedy, I'll be thinking, this might not get the best reaction. I
love that. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. No, because it really gets me, because I spend so much of my life where we're trying to rewire people's thinking that's actually not the most beneficial way. And I love humor, but like, why does it have to be that way? So, it is one of those little beefs that I have around that. But, on the other side of it, I love what you were saying. I appreciate those thoughts around, the sensory side of it. And, one of the things that I do intentionally is go for my walk in the morning, and I'll often not listen to something until maybe a bit later in my walk. And the reason being is that I want to hear the sounds, and it might be a bird, it might be someone having a conversation, but it just starts making your ears listen a bit more. And then I go, what is that smell that I now smell right now? And it might be that morning air, or the lavender that is in the garden over there, whatever it is, right? And you just go, and the other thing is, and then when I start listening to things like, say, podcasts or music, I'm listening with different ears. Because I'm not just putting it on to fill a gap. I'm actually doing it. But I'm also doing it to stretch and to think, and I'm listening better. And so instead of my brain going, oh, this is what they should say or not say, I'm actually stopped, and I'm a little hushed on it, and I'm willing to maybe learn something from it. And I think those things are things that we can often forget if we don't do it intentional. And the thing I'm taking from our conversation is going back to intention. I think that, often that it's really easy to forget to intentionally. And I've done that a little bit lately, because, even just to keep it really real, like I'm trying to think, maybe even, it's not that long ago, maybe even just 3 weeks ago, for about 2.5 weeks, I really struggled, because I had, like, I cannot tell you over the last 2 years, but it's got progressively worse. Lots and lots of leaders just really sharing their heart, their challenges, and really serving the individual rather than the collective, which I love doing when we think beyond our own worlds. And, so it got really draining, and it got to a point I was starting to hear myself. I so relate to that. Oh my gosh. And I had to actually pull myself out of it for a couple of weeks to go, okay, if I'm to lead and to be that in the future a little bit, rather than being here and being pulled down, what would that need to look like? And so I had to become very, very intentional. Could I do it? Am I willing to step it up? Am I willing to do whatever it takes? And, I really fought with that for 2 weeks, because I thought, gee, it would be really nice to chill out under a coconut palm tree with a pina colada and just be a normal human being, like I see lots of other people doing. And just walk away from the bigger mission. And then I was like, but could I live with myself? And if I was looking back on my life, is that what I want to be remembered for? And of course, no is the answer. So, but I had to be intentional to pull back up and go, actually, this is what I'm called to do. And this is what I'm called, got to intentionally make sure that I'm refueling by doing these things. And I'm going to do it no matter what. And the other thing that I think I've got from our conversation today was that moment when I said to you around, we can choose to go to the side, we can choose to go down to that level, or we can say, hey, this is where I'm going. And you can come on this journey, but it's a choice. And I know I've had to do that a lot in the last little while. Hey, this is where I'm going, and I don't want to leave you behind. I'd love you to come on this journey, and this is the journey I'm going on. And I think just knowing that you're not the only person doing that, and there's others that are having to sort of go, oh, okay, come on, everybody, come on, we've got this.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a powerful moment. So thank you for
Yeah.
that and sharing that. And yeah, is there anything else you want to make sure that you've said here on the decision table that I haven't given you the chance to?
I don't think so. I think the main thing is that every person is immensely valuable, even if they don't realize it, and has a lot to give, and it all starts with them. So, yeah, back yourself, live your dreams, essentially, because your dreams are fully accessible. The only reason you don't think you can achieve your wildest dreams is because you are telling yourself you can't, but you can. And there are people out there to help you kind of get to that place in your mind where you can just thrive. So find a community, find your people, you know, choose your friends wisely, and yeah, and live your best life.
I love that. What a beautiful way to end the live broadcast. I'm going to finish it now. Thank you so much, Monica.
Pleasure. Great to chat with you, Kirumoni.